here we have Upstream spectrum analyzer for a particular neighborhood. We have our 4 different Upstream carriers. Each one, if you go from the little V here to the little guardband V down here, is 6.4 megahertz wide. So each carrier is a 6.4 megahertz wide carrier, and they're modulated at 64 QAM on our Upstream here. Each one is capable of roughly about 30 megs per second. So if you add all those together, it gives you about 120 megabits per second. And if you take away some headroom, you'll get it roughly about 100. So that's not a whole lot of bandwidth for a whole neighborhood, considering some have upwards of 1,000 modems on them. So especially if you're selling customers like about 25 megs per customer on some of the higher plans, some cable companies sell even more than that. But if you look at this particular one, see the little spikes here? It looks like analog CPD, which is common path distortion. With analog CPD, you would have some sort of corrosion on the plant, and it would generate a crystal diode with the buildup of the corrosion, and it would actually make some signal reflect back and go back towards the MTC instead of going to the subscriber's home. So when that happens, it'll show up here at 6 megahertz spacing intervals. But this one, they're actually spaced about 4 megahertz. So this actually tells me that this is not CPD, and in fact, we don't even have analog forward carriers on our plant anymore. So therefore, 4 megahertz spacing, this is actually a dwell time of 100, which you can't see, but I have this dwell time set at 100 here on path track. 4 megahertz spacing is actually an electrical interference coming from the plant. It could be a loose seizure assembly, like a loose seizure screw, something burnt or something not making very good contact. Could be a bad end-of-line terminator. And what that does is that causes all these little spikes. And if I can change the dwell time, you can actually see what it's doing, because it's actually moving super fast and it's really hard to see. So let me bump that dwell time up to 2000 instead of 100. And you'll see how it's actually a bunch of little spikes, and it's flashing throughout this whole thing super fast. So anywhere where these spikes are at, and the same time that the modem's trying to talk, it's going to lower the signal quality for that one piece of information. So the noise floor is down here, and the modems are communicating, this high. And so the noise floor to here is your kind of your signal to noise ratio. But if you take that away, take 10 decibels away, your noise floor went from a 35 to a 25 on that particular time and moment that it overlapped that interference. So over time, when you got a lot of it and it's filling in the whole thing and it's doing it super fast, as it grows taller, that signal quality gets worse, and then customers start noticing a lot of problems. Their internet's loading slow, the Upstream voice is not coming through correctly, so they'll get complaints of, hey, I can't hear you, you're cutting in and out, kind of like a cell phone losing coverage. VPN starts dropping on customers, credit cards machines and fax machines don't work correctly. So these are things that we can isolate and get squared away, but unfortunately, this stuff is very temperamental and hard to track out, and it scares away really easy, and it may come back in an hour, it may come back in a month, you just don't know. So good luck tracking that electrical impulse interference out there, and thanks for watching.